With players like Carlos Alcaraz and Felix Auger-Aliassime, the Pure Aero 98 is more popular than ever. It obviously works really well for them, but how well does it work for the average player? Today, we're gonna take the Pure Aero 98, we're gonna pit it up against the stock Pure Aero, and we're gonna let you know exactly how they play, how they differ, and at the end, hopefully, which one is right for you. As per usual, before we get it on the court, we need to talk about their specs and how they stack up on paper. For starters, both feature the same technologies. We have NF2 inserts for better feel, FSI spin to help you generate tons of topspin, and an aero modular frame design to help you maximize your racket head speed. If you want to learn a little bit more about each one of those technologies, check out our review of the Pure Aero 98, where we go in a little bit more in depth into each and every one of them. The Pure Aero 98 has a slightly smaller 98 square inch head size versus the more standard 100 square inch head size in the stock Pure Aero. The 98 also has a little bit more weight to it at 305 grams on strung versus 300 grams, and a more headlight balance, sitting at about 7 points headlight once strung versus closer to 4 for the stock Pure Aero. However, with the way the weight is distributed between both of the frames, they actually come out having a very similar swing weight of 323, and they both have a very similar flex rating of about 65. Lastly, the Pure Aero 98 does have a slightly tighter string pattern, 16 by 20, as opposed to the more open and kind of more standard 16 by 19 that you'll see in the stock 100 square inch Pure Aero. With the specs out the way, let's get these two on court and let's see exactly how they play. When you're hitting with these two rackets in a vacuum, they definitely differ quite a lot. While their specs on paper are close and they're both a Pure Aero and they both are kind of designed to help you do the same thing, they definitely go about it slightly differently, and they definitely are going to appeal to slightly different players. The Pure Aero 98, with the smaller head size and the tighter string pattern, it definitely has a much lower launch angle. It's got a lot less power as well. Even though it does technically have a similar flex rating, because of the thinner beam, you definitely feel the flex a little bit differently. I found there's quite a bit more response back into the hand, which I definitely appreciated. Kind of gave me a little bit more connection to the ball, so I felt it was a little easier for me to actually control my shot shape. The 98, kind of the biggest thing that stood out to me was that I felt I still had a lot of versatility. Like I could swing out on it, and I was definitely rewarded for swinging out on it and trying to add a little extra topspin, but I could also flatten it out a little bit more, which is something I really struggle to do with Pure Aeros in general. And I could slow my swing down a little bit more and kind of use a little bit more touch. For example, hitting backhand slices for me with the 98, I definitely appreciated the feel a bit more there. Found it had a little bit more control. Definitely that, again, that more connected feel that I got out of it kind of allowed me to have a little bit more confidence that I could hit that slice however I wanted. Whereas in the 100, it's a little bit stiffer feeling with the bigger head size as well. I found there's just a lot of extra power. It's got the more open 16 by 19 string pattern as well. So that helps to generate more spin. And I definitely was hitting a bigger, heavier ball with the 100 versus the 98. However, I was also spraying balls a lot more with the stock Pure Aero versus the 98. I also kind of felt with the regular 100 square inch Pure Aero that I was almost kind of pigeonholed into just trying to swing out big and trying to take advantage of that extra spin. And when I tried to slow it down a little bit and use a little bit more feel and a little more touch, that because of how stiff it was and how crisp it kind of plays, that I kind of lost a bit of that feel. And I struggled a little bit, especially on the touch shots. Directionally, it was actually great, and I wouldn't say I've sprayed too many wide. I definitely sprayed them long though. That extra power that it has does mean that you need to be hitting with the extra spin in order to keep the ball in. The 98 doesn't quite have that issue, just a little bit more controlled. On volleys, I kind of prefer the 98 a little bit more, although I think for most players, the 100 is actually a slightly better option. The 98 is definitely not quite as stable as the 100. However, with the slightly smaller head size, you get a little bit more control and again, a little bit more feel. And I found that I could place the ball a little bit better with the 98. However, I definitely didn't have as much forgiveness. So it was definitely a lot easier for me to make a mistake with the 98. However, when I didn't make a mistake, I definitely hit a better volley. Whereas with the stock 100, even if you kind of miss hit a little bit, because it's so much stiffer in the hoop, it kind of helps hold it together and keep it in place. So you still hit a halfway decent volley. I just found that because of how stiff it was, I definitely found that like the touch volleys where I was hitting it short were a little tougher. On serves, they both feel pretty good. However, I definitely tend to like rackets that are a little more headlight on serve, as it gives me a little bit more versatility. and I find I can hit a couple spots a little bit easier. However, I definitely was able to hit a bigger serve with the 100. Again, that little bit of extra stiffness in the hoop and the slightly more open string pattern mean you get a little bit more spin as well as a little more pace, kind of just for free. And because it's a little lighter, I found I was swinging it just as fast as I was the 98. So while I generally prefer more headlight rackets on serve, I actually think I like the stock 100 square inch Pure Aero more on serves. That little extra pace, a little extra spin, and I didn't really notice that lack in maneuverability at all. And honestly, I was hitting some monster serves with the Pure Aero, so I definitely can't complain. So I definitely think I gotta stick with the 100 at least for serves. Overall, they're both great frames, and you're probably wondering kind of which one's right for me. Well, if you're a player like myself who's looking for a little bit more control, you can kind of already generate some of your own pace. You don't necessarily need something to give you a ton of spin, but you definitely like having something that's gonna generate a ton of spin. The 98 is definitely for you. However, if you're maybe beginner, intermediate, and honestly even an advanced level player who likes a little bit of a stiffer feel, wants something that's gonna generate a ton of pop and a ton of spin, and you're not necessarily looking for that extra control, the 100 is definitely for you. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have any questions about either the 100 or the 98, or things you want to see us take a look at, let us know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification button to keep up with all our latest content. As always, the Pure Aero and the Pure Aero 98 are both available in-store and online at our RacquetGuys website. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.